Good evening and welcome to tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting this November 17th of 2022. Today we have Pastor Averill from the Way Church of Marietta who will be providing our invocation. That will be followed by the pledge brought by Fire Engineer Ian Figueria, I believe, of Station 5 C Shift, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name. For those of you who are willing and able, please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Holy and righteous Heavenly Father, who rule over the kingdoms of the earth, I pray this evening for the Board of Commissioners, those that you have called and appointed to lead in our county at such a tumultuous time in our history. We pray, oh Father, that you will give them wisdom, that you will grant them divine guidance and insight as they carry out the great work that you have called them to do in this county. I pray, oh God, for their families, that you will strengthen them and protect them and watch over them and guard their hearts. Bless the people of Cobb County. May we grow together in unity, work together, pray together, worship together, serve together, bear one another's burden, to the end that your peace may reign uninhibited in our cities, in our streets, in our schools, and in our homes. Bless this evening's meeting, and I pray that all the plans and decisions that will be made according to your will and to your purpose for the well-being of the citizens of this county. Lord, bless us all together and strengthen us and encourage us tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor, for that powerful invocation, and thank you to our firefighter for the pledge. Our meeting is now officially called to order. Commissioners, we have a number of things I'd like to bring to everyone's attention prior to us going into presentations. And the first is to approve the addition of 2 non-agenda items. The first of which is to provide an update from the Cobb County Board of Elections regarding the 2022 general election. Is Chairwoman Silas here this evening? Okay, very good. And that would be added to the end of presentations. And also to add an agenda item to appoint the county manager or her designee as the county representative to serve as the primary point of contact with the City of Mableton for communication on matters related to the City of Mableton. And that will be added to the end of the consent agenda. So, Commissioners, I move that we approve those items as presented. Is there Second. Any discussion? Call the question. Okay, the motion passes 5-0, and those are now added to our agenda. Thank you, Commissioners. We will now go into the presentation portion of our meeting, and the first presentation is to provide a proclamation recognizing Filipino American History Month. For those who are here with respect to that proclamation, please join me up front. Thanks for being here. We can have you So they say good things come to those who wait. and I appreciate your patience in allowing us to present this to you, as Filipino American History Month was actually in the month of October. But we are still pleased to recognize this occasion. We are celebrating Filipino Americans History Month in October, commemorating the earliest documented Filipinos in the continental United States in October of 1857. We celebrate the contributions of Filipino Americans who have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness that America continues to enjoy today. More than 260,000 Filipino and Filipino American soldiers served under the American flag during World War II. More than 25,000 Filipino Americans reside here in the state of Georgia per the 2020 census. We proclaim October 2022 as Filipino American History Month in Cobb County, and we encourage education about Filipino Americans in our community. Thank you. Yeah.
On behalf of our Filipino Honorary Consul General Raul Donato, we appreciate the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, the people of Cobb County, for recognizing and also engaging the Filipino Americans. These are Filipino Americans who are residing here in Cobb County and representing different organizations. So thank you so much for the engagement.
You're very welcome, and thank you for all of your engagement in our Cobb County community. With that, I'm going to hand this to you, and we can take a picture.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, got it. Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation will be proclamations to Thomas Foster, Michael Gresham, and Donna Rowe. If you can join us up front here. Thank you. And guests, if there are more.
And your family and other veterans that are with you, come on up. Harold? Oh, I didn't see Skip.
Meeting tonight, that's why you don't see many of them.
Oh. Was it at 6? Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is quite an honor to present to you 3 Cobb County residents who have been inducted into the Georgia Veteran Hall of Fame, Vietnam Veteran Hall of Fame. No. Just veteran. Military Hall of Fame. So I'm going to start, well, each has a unique story, and the proclamations are not generic. So I'm going to start with ladies first and ask Donna Rowe to come up. Not only is she a Vietnam vet, she's a dear friend, and we appreciate you.
And I appreciate you.
Whereas Donna C. Rowe attended Hahaman Hospital School of Nursing in Worcester, Maine. She received a scholarship for the first 18 months of study, and the Army paid for the balance of her education in exchange for 2 years of military service. Rowe entered the U.S. Army in 1964 through the Student Nurse Corps Program, ROTC. And whereas she was commissioned as a second lieutenant in February of 1966 and assigned to several hospitals before being promoted in 1968 to captain. She was assigned to the emergency triage area in the 3rd Field Hospital located in Saigon, Vietnam, as head nurse. Her story is featured in the Kathleen Story segment of the award-winning Vietnam War documentary film, The Shadow of the Blade. Whereas during her military career, Roe received the Vietnam Service Ribbon and the Army Commendation Medal. She was honorably discharged in June of 1969 and was the first woman inducted into the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame class of 2016. And whereas she has served the Cobb community in many organizations, including Habitat for Humanity, American Red Cross, Court-Appointed Special Advocates, CASA, for Abused Children, Cobb County Development Authority, Georgia Vietnam Veterans Alliance, serving as director, Cobb County Republican Women's Club, serving as president in 2003, Cobb Association of Realtors, serving as president in 1994, the Georgia Association of Realtors, and the National Association of Realtors, and more. Roe is the widow of Colonel retired Al Roe and has 2 sons. She served as a Red Cross nurse from 1969 to 1999 and as a registered nurse volunteer for Georgia Homeland Security and the Georgia Nurse Alert System. Since 1983, Roe has distinguished herself as a real estate broker and is currently a member of First United Methodist Church in Marietta. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby recognize former Captain Donna C. Roe and congratulate her for being inducted into the 2016 Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. We commend her for her heroic action in combat and outstanding achievements while in service. This is the 17th day of November, 2022. And friends, let me tell you something. If you want something done, Donna's your girl.
Aren't you too sweet? Thank you so
You want to
much.
say a few words?
Could you hold this for me, Michael? I can always get the men to help me out. Joanne, I want to thank you very much for this honor. I know that Tom and Michael and I don't believe that we are the ones that should be in the Hall of Fame. We left a lot back there, but we brought a lot home too. But only a person in the Hall of Fame can give this. And I want to give you the Hall of Fame coin embossed with our names that only a Hall of Famer can give you. No one else can give it to you. So I want to honor you for being such a supporter of the veterans in this community, this state, and this country.
Thank you. This is better than the baseball Hall of
Thank you. That's from all of us.
Fame. Oh, gosh. Thank you. Okay. I have a new challenge coin. Okay, next, I'm going to do Mike.
Go ahead, Michael.
Kennesaw native and Sprayberry High School graduate, former U.S. Marine Corps, Sergeant Michael Edward Gresham, has been inducted into the 2022 Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. In 1968, while serving as a squad leader in the 1st Marine Division in Vietnam, then Lance Corporal Gresham's platoon command post was struck by several enemy rocket rounds, followed by a human wave assault. Seizing control of his unit when his senior leaders were seriously wounded, Corporal Gresham raced through hostile enemy fire while shouting words of encouragement to his men and directing fire, resulting in heavy losses to the advancing forces. And whereas realizing their position was untenable, he quickly repaired an inoperable radio and skillfully moved his men to an alternate location, directing his platoon's fire, enabling them to repel the onslaught. For his bold courage and initiative, which saved the lives of countless Marines, Sergeant Gresham was awarded the Navy Cross, the U.S. Marine Corps, and U.S. Navy's second highest decoration for valor. And whereas after the horrendous event, Sergeant Gresham was assigned various patrol duties until he was hospitalized with malaria and later transferred to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. There he was assigned to a military police unit and meritoriously promoted to corporal. then sergeant, and released from active duty in 1969. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby recognize former Sergeant Michael Edward Gresham and congratulate him for being inducted into the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame, class of 2022. We commend him for his heroic action in combat and outstanding achievements while in service. This the 17th day of November, 2022. Congratulations. Another hero. He doesn't want to speak. Okay, Tom Foster is not shy. This is Tom Foster, and here's his proclamation. Whereas Marietta native Thomas Lloyd Foster was drafted into the U.S. Army in 1966, 2 months after his 19th birthday. Now we know how old you are.
There you go.
He was soon recognized with the American Spirit Honor Medal and when graduating from boot camp. He then went to Fort Carson, Colorado as a member of the 5th Infantry Division mechanized before being assigned to Vietnam. And whereas on April 28, 1968, Foster found himself under fire. He took command of his platoon after its leaders had been wounded and fearlessly rallied his men and organized them to continue the attack against the enemy. Exposing himself many times to this intense enemy fire, Specialist Foster directed the fire of his men, climbed on the platoon's command personnel carrier to give a situation report to the company commander, and finally directed the platoon in a withdrawal at the order of the company commander. Specialist Foster's personal bravery, aggressiveness, and devotion to duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and direct great credit upon himself, his unit, the 25th Infantry Division, and the U.S. Army. And whereas after being wounded a second time, he was sent to the 7th Field Hospital in Tokyo, Japan, and later evacuated to the 377th Medical Evacuation in South Korea before returning home. During his military career, Foster was awarded the Combat Infantry Badge, 2 Purple Hearts, and the nation's 3rd highest award for valor, the Silver Star. And whereas after returning stateside, Foster was an activist regarding the treatment of returning vets and wrote several newspaper articles. Several of Tom's articles appeared in the Peoria Journal-Star and the Marietta Daily Journal. He has featured articles in the Soldier of Fortune magazine and the Chillicothe Bulletin newspaper. And whereas since leaving the service, he has continued his patriotic duty by being actively involved with the History and Social Studies Department at Noonan High School in the Student Vet Connect program. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby recognize former Specialist Thomas Lloyd Foster and congratulate him for being inducted into the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame, class of 2017. We commend him for his heroic action in combat and outstanding achievements while in service. This is the 17th day of November, 2022.
Thank
You
you.
want to say a few words? I'm impressed. I didn't know all that about you.
I can only say thank you all and God bless.
Thank you.
Tell us what you want.
All right, here we go, and maybe. All right, 3, 2, 1, and done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne.
Take care.
All right, thank you for your service. Our next presentation will be brought by Commissioner Gambro. Those here with the Still Family Farm or Safe Path are welcome to come up for this proclamation or presentation.
Good evening. So it was a great honor for me to have Still Family Farm, which is a 9-generation family farm here in Cobb County, host my 4th annual Gambril's Great Pumpkin Day, where we had the farm opened up to the public, which is opened year-round in the fall. But we also had members from our police department, fire department, sheriff's department, and animal services join us as well to help educate the public and raise awareness for Safe Path, which is an organization here in Cobb County that takes care of our children. And so with that, I'm going to pass the microphone to you to do the presentation.
Well, Still Family Farm is a 9-generation farm, and so it is our privilege to leverage the heritage that we steward there on the land and draw attention to Safe Path. Safe Path is an organization that I did not know about until 4 years ago when Kelly introduced it to us. They advocate for Cobb's children who are abused, neglected, or trafficked. And we don't really like to think about that kind of thing happening to our children here in the lovely Cobb County, but it does, and it's more prevalent than you might think. So Safe Path does the gritty, very hands-on work of that initial intervention, the very day that a child might leave home and go to school and not go back home for their own safety, and the trauma and the upheaval that might entail. From there, they continue to walk along with those children and advocate for them as they go through the foster system, as they go through the justice system. And not only do they provide items that a person might need just for general supplies and survival, but what they also need as far as a framework and a location for the people who do the work of claiming justice on the behalf of these children. They can meet at Safe Path and take care of all sorts of basic medical needs, exams, collection of evidence, interviews. All sorts of things can happen at Safe Path, and it's a neutral environment. And so this work is vital. It's vital for the future of Cobb County, and when these children go through the traumatic experience of having their whole world turned upside down, Safe Path is who comes along and smooths out that land for them, gives them fertile ground to put down roots again, and then to begin to come back to life and thrive. So it is our privilege to support them. What we do is one day of our fall season, we open 12 days. One day of our fall season, we donate $1 of every ticket that comes in. And then there are other ways that money is collected through different contests and different exciting things. And so this year, we are honored to present the total donation that we have collected. I don't remember the number, $2,855 from Cobb County residents. There we go. Yep. And they do the work that we can't do. We don't have it in us to do it, but it's vital, and we really appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And our staff also helped reach this amount of $2,855 through our pumpkin contest. And so with that, I would like to have our winners come up, and we are going to recognize you as well. So for the Great Pumpkin Decorating Contest winner, the votes and donations came up for pumpkin number 7, which was The Corpse Bride by the Cobb Library. So if you can come up and join us, please. There you go. So the library helped us raise $346 for Safe Path. The runner-up was pumpkin number 3, which was The Holidays by Cobb Senior Services, and I do understand it got a little competitive here. So if we can have Cobb Senior Services come up. Thank you. And third place was our pumpkin number 3, which was the holidays. Oh, I'm sorry. Pumpkin number 2, Pennywise from the IT movie by Cobb DOT came in third. So if Cobb DOT can join us. Is Drew the artist tonight? Okay, well, you can wear your badge. Hannah, did you want to say anything? Sure. Okay.
I'm Hannah Gieslin. I'm the Community Resource Coordinator at Safe Path, and this event is always one of my favorites. I'm always like vying to get there. Usually I'm like, nah, volunteers can do it, and that's cool, they can go. But this one I'm like, no, I love it. I love all things fall and Halloween. I got married on Halloween last year. So it's always fun to have something that is so fun and uplifting, but also comes back to the community and supports our mission. And I'm gonna need you to record what you said, and then that's my new elevator pitch for Safe Path. You had it down, packed perfectly. But thank you guys so much for just continuing to do it and having the pumpkin contest on top of it. It just what makes what we do a little bit easier, for sure. So thank you guys.
Great, thank you.
Here we go, everyone, in 3, 2, and got it,
We also have another presentation to provide a certificate of achievement to Brody Whitlock. If you are here, please join us up front.
And also Michael Brantley from our Parks Department, if we have any other Parks Department staff here as well. So the Cobb County Board of Commissioners would like to award you the Certificate of Achievement, and this is presented to Brody Whitlock. The Cobb County Board of Commissioners congratulates you on being awarded the Georgia Recreation and Parks Association District 5 Al Richardson Athletic Award for 2022. We applaud your excellence and expertise in athletic programming and implementation of recreation, parks, and leisure service programs. Thank you for your incomparable dedication to service and for representing Cobb County. This is the 17th day of November, 2022.
Brody doesn't want to talk. He's a little shy. But the Al Richardson Athletic Award for us, District 5 in GRPA, Georgia Recreation and Parks, made up of all the Northwest Georgia counties and cities. So there's about 33 agencies in Northwest Georgia. And this award epitomizes athletic programming. And Brody is one of the best. And he's proud to be, we're proud to have him with Cobb County. He's just one of our wonderful staff. So we are extremely happy to be able to do this for him and extremely happy that he won the award. So thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have an update with Cobb County Board of Elections. If Chairwoman Silas can join us up front, please. If you can Good evening. You can just join us here. And I know there's no formal presentation that was provided for this evening. Go ahead. Did you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. So, good evening. My name is Tori Silas. I serve as the chair of the Cobb County Board of Elections. I'm obviously joined by our director, Janine Evler. Following my being in touch with Dr. McMorris, I did have an opportunity to speak with Director Evler, and so we do have a portion of the presentation that was provided at this week's Board of Elections meeting. To the extent that we feel that we provided an update at that meeting. We believe it'll provide an update here. It addresses the majority of the issues that have been brought to light. The most recent is not provided for in that presentation because it was completed, or the presentation was completed prior to us becoming aware of that issue. Obviously, both myself and Director Evler are here to answer any questions after she provides the presentation.
Wonderful. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman, Commissioners, and County Manager. Again, as Chairwoman Silas said, this presentation was presented to the Board of Elections at our certification meeting. We did try and highlight in true transparency some of the issues that have happened this election. But before I go into some of those things, I do want to say we did have some very good successes in this election. We transitioned to our new building, which wasn't a simple task, and really transitioned a lot of our procedures into a new space. We served over 181,000 people in advance voting at 13 locations, going from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on most days, and that's the largest number that we've ever had pass through our advance voting lines, and really there were no lines to most any extent. And that was even a greater number than had voted early in the 2020 presidential election. So it was a very good success. But as you all know, we did have some challenges, so I'd like to go over those items if you'll go to the slides. So we did have 3 redistricting problems that surfaced during this election. The Mableton cityhood boundaries for the Mableton question, we had one street segment that you see there highlighted in red that we did not have coded for the Mableton cityhood referendum. There were 20 registered voters in that street segment, and by the time we had discovered the issue and corrected it, 6 of those voters had already cast an in-person ballot in early voting and did not have that referendum on their ballot. Next. The second redistricting problem that we saw, and these next two, this one and the next one, actually existed since redistricting in March and April. We went through the primary with these problems or these districting issues that it was not discovered in that election or the runoff. So in this case, we had a problem on school board districts 4 and 5 in one precinct in Sandy Plains 01. The precinct was coded almost entirely in District 4 when the segment in yellow there should actually have been in District 5. And we discovered that by a voter contacting us saying he thought he was in 5, but he received a ballot, an absentee mail ballot that had the District 4 race on it. And so through that contact, we investigated and found that that was a problem that affected 1,112 registered voters. Of that number, 104 voters had already cast an in-person ballot and 7 absentee ballots had been accepted in the wrong district. So they had the District 4 race on their ballots when they should have just been in District 5 with no school board race at all. Of course, we were happy to see that the margins of victory in that race were significant enough to where that number did not impact the outcome. Next one. The next redistricting error that we had was related to school board districts 2 and 6. There were 8 street segments that were placed in District 2 instead of District 6. Both 2 and 6 were on the ballot. District These voters were placed again in District 2 instead of 6, and there were 121 registered voters in those street segments. 19 of those voters had already cast an in-person ballot, and 3 absentees had been accepted. Again, these races in 2 and 6 had significant margins, and that number of ballots cast in the wrong district did not have an impact on the outcome. These 2 redistricting issues we found were executed by the same employee, so we made sure that all of the worksheets that employee had done during the March and April redistricting were rechecked again. And we had also checked all of the surrounding District 4 precincts that could also have been impacted, and found that only the Sandy Plains 01 was impacted. And in this case, only these 8 street segments were impacted. Next one. So this, moving on to absentee ballots, as most of you have heard, we've had a couple of issues with absentee ballots. We had, in this case, a report from a voter that they received 3 absentee ballots. And we got an email from that reporting that. It was 2 ballots were generated by our new machine that packs the ballots automatically, and then 1 was issued by hand. The one issued by hand was the correct ballot that was supposed to go out to that voter. It was a provisional ballot because some of the information on his application but didn't match the voter registration system. What happened in this case is we were testing our new machine that packs the ballots, and the employees were told to destroy those. Those weren't going out, and somebody put some back into the stream of the process, and they did get mailed out. These didn't affect any outcomes at all, but it wasn't something that we want to have happen ever again. Next one. This is probably one of the most critical things that happened. There were 1,036 absentee ballots that didn't get sent out. We started to see a lot of contacts from voters indicating that they had not received their ballot. This is not all that unusual with the mail system. It does sometimes take longer for certain areas. There can be errors in the address, so we deal with those as we receive those complaints. But we noticed that quite a few indicated that they had been issued the ballot on October 13th and 22nd. So we did get an email from Representative Wilkerson that sort of highlighted for us that there really was a data issue, and he helped us to see that we had a significant number of ballots that were not being returned, even though we showed that they had been issued. So we did some more checking, and we found that the first one we saw was 192 ballots that were issued on October 22nd were never packed and mailed. So by that time, some of those voters had already voted in person, or they had requested new ballots. And the remaining 164 people who were still outstanding and had this issue, we sent those ballots by overnight delivery on November 11th. I'm sorry, November 4th. Next one. And the other group, which was those issued on October 13th, that was a little bit harder to determine because there were almost 400 ballots that were issued that day that did get sent out with manual packing. And those were mainly our elderly and disabled voters who roll over from election to election. So it was harder to determine why we were getting ballots back on that date. So they must have been sent out. But the numbers of ballots coming back were much reduced from what we would expect. So we did do some more checking. We found that there were 838 ballots that did not get issued, packed, and mailed. And so this was down to the wire. This was on November 4th. So to take action on the most critical ones, we packed 83 ballots of this October 13th group that had out-of-state mailing addresses. And we UPS those to those out-of-state mailing addresses with a return service, UPS, so that they could overnight them back to us. But we were left with, a large number of people who were in Georgia who we just couldn't do all of those packing and UPSing and overnighting. It's quite a laborious process. So on the 7th, which, is the day before the election, we did end up through a court order, a consent order, packing up the remaining 276 ballots. Because again, many people had already voted early, and so the numbers had been reducing. So 276 ballots originally issued on the 13th, addresses within Georgia were sent by UPS overnight. The court order extended their return so that as long as they mailed the ballot and postmarked it by Election Day, we could accept it by the Monday following Election Day. So they did have a little bit more time, but they were getting it, of course, on Election Day in an overnight delivery. And also, some of those we ended up not getting to UPS in time because, as I said, it takes a good deal of time to pack them all, get them to the UPS, putting them in our mail service, mailroom service, where they can label them and weigh them, get them all out. Long story short, some of them didn't get there in time. So we had employees, seasonal employees, and others that went out and delivered them across Georgia, really, by hand, and hand-delivered what they couldn't get out to UPS. So it was a really huge mistake, and we've definitely put in some processes to make that not happen again. We do have what we call a pack and review process, where when you pack up the ballots and do the mailing, you have a whole nother team that reviews the packed ballot against the application. And because we implemented this new packing machine, for some reason, the staff just forgot the review part. And so, we've, since then, even today, we have people in multiple new steps to make sure that what is done is checked by someone else. Next one, please. One of the other things we had happen was on the ballot marking device, or BMD, on the display, the Mableton referendum was appearing as a repeating sentence. If you can see about the 4th or 5th line, I guess it's the 5th line down, you can see shall the act repeat again. And so it's just a repeating sentence. What brought this to my attention is Commissioner Sheffield, originally what brought it to our attention, there was an email early on, we hadn't started voting yet, and what she was seeing was this kind of display on the My Voter page sample ballot. And so that was also a new program, the type of sample ballot that was being used. So I thought it was their program that was the issue. And so we had that corrected on October 11th. But then, next one, please. We found that during our testing, we found the same problem happening on our touchscreens, but we had already started voting because we were still in the midst of testing and hadn't gotten to the Mableton area yet, and it hadn't been caught. This one's a little puzzling because the absentee ballots are fine, the database is fine, but the touchscreens display it differently. The Secretary of State's office also, they build the ballots, and they do a review as well on the screen, and they didn't catch it either. But that's just an unfortunate thing that nobody caught it until it was too late to make a change. So what we did instead is we put up these notices in all of the ballot marking devices and at the check-in stations for all of the advanced voting locations and for the Mableton area, the proposed area. So that was how we dealt with that one. Before I move on to the next one, I wanted to say the last problem is the most recent one, and that we learned about yesterday. We have already certified the election, and we learned through preparing for the audit that we just did today, this morning. In that preparation, we were pulling down some reports, and it became apparent that one of the memory cards from Kennesaw 3A had not been uploaded. They had 2 tabulators, 2 scanners, and only one of them had been uploaded. Even though they had both been returned, the operator of the equipment or the equipment failed. We're not really sure, but it was more likely that just was the person neglected to put it through. So that, unfortunately, once it was found, we did upload it, and it did change the outcome of the Kennesaw Council race. So the city of Kennesaw, they're not really sure what they're going to do right now, but we're going to take that as we go. But I did want to go one more slide, if you would, to tell you just about a pilot that we participated in. We were one of 18 counties that participated in a new kind of pole pad. Because it is cellular and it connects to all the other pole pads, it enabled us to not have people fill out an application ahead of time. It has its own printer, so it printed out the oath that was signed by the voters. We didn't have to put the voters registration system in the registration system first and then have the poll pad create a card. It was all done on one system. So it really streamlined the process, and it really helped us to serve more voters in early voting. This was a pilot just for early voting because, as you know, we already use a poll pad system on Election Day. And our check-in average, it had been between 2 and 5 minutes, and it was down to 1 minute 13 seconds. So it really did help. But that is the conclusion of what I have prepared for you, and Ms. Silas and I are happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And, over the years that I've been here on the board, I've come to appreciate the amount of complexity that is accompanied with our elections process, and also the amount of pride that our employees take in providing our services. And know that there are questions that come up every election cycle, but certainly the issues that have come up this time, they exceed any number of issues that I've ever have known us to experience, at least during the time that I've been here, which prompted me to request this update today. And just wanted to get your thoughts. I know you walked us through what happened, but how do we get to overcoming these issues so that we can instill a level of confidence in our voters?
Yes, ma'am. So as you say, my staff takes a great deal of pride in what we do. We know how important it is. We feel heart sick that some of these issues have affected people. I know Tori probably wants to say something as well, but we are looking at every one of our processes to make sure that we can stop these from happening. I have a lot of new staff. As you know, we had quite a bit of turnover. There's some learning curve in a lot of the complex things that we do. And we have a lot of people who are temporary and seasonal who maybe don't see as much, time over time. We have new people come in all the time. So it's very hard to have enough seasoned leaders to teach those new people how to do it.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. With regard to the absentee ballot issues that were experienced, my understanding is that we have put in place an interim absentee ballot supervisor. I and another member of the board are working directly with her. We, the board, will be receiving daily updates with respect to the number of absentee ballot applications that, starting on the 21st, that are received, such that we can monitor the numbers, the anomalies that essentially brought this to light, the type of phone calls. I believe Director Evler made reference to a information and data that was provided to her by Representative Wilkerson. It's that type of data that myself and another board member will be reviewing on a daily basis. We will receive a report every night beginning on the 21st, and that will continue through the balance of the early voting period, so that we are monitoring the information. And again, if there are those types of anomalies, we'll be able to identify them and bring them to the staff's attention.
Okay, and will staff be doing that as well?
Absolutely, because
Okay.
they're the ones that will be preparing the information, emailing it to us at the end of the night.
Okay.
I and actually it's Madam Chair's appointee, Jennifer Mossbacher, who serves on the board. She and I will be reviewing the information and discussing it, and then circling back to the staff to the extent that we need to. And as Director Eveler made mention of, we're also reviewing our processes. We obviously are about to embark on a runoff election, and so that is obviously our focus, making certain that that runoff election is carried out in the most efficient, effective, and reliable way possible. And then it's at the conclusion of that runoff election that we'll really sit down, look at the processes, look at the individuals that are working, and try to make certain that all of that aligns such that we do not have these types of issues on a go-forward basis.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I mean, as issues were surfacing, even in the last election, I was reticent to convene anyone because I knew you were in the throes of elections and all hands really needed to be on deck. And I know, again, we're going into the runoff now, so I appreciate just some of the interim things that you're doing at this point. And it's hard for me to just allow the process to play itself out when there are just so many varied things that have occurred. And I know staff is new. We just need help, and I'm sure help is needed, but also we need help, again, to just instill confidence in what's going on. I know you said there's some steps that have been made with absentee ballots. There are some other issues not necessarily at play with this election, the new districts that were at play, and not getting the lines properly drawn. And then there are two outstanding issues. One was the ballot question and it printing
Duplicating,
twice.
Chairwoman.
And then the Kennesaw City Council issue with uploading the memory card. Are there any steps that we can put in place to have the proper ballot question and then to also ensure that information is being properly uploaded?
Certainly. With respect to the duplicative ballot question, the ballots have already been provided, or versions of the ballots, images of the ballot questions have already been provided to us. I know that I reviewed them. I have the ability to review them. I believe, Director Eveler, you've reviewed the ballot.
Yes, but what happened wasn't reviewable to us because they send us a print copy, a PDF of what the absentee mail ballot will look like, and that's what we review and approve, and that was fine. There's something about where the machine gets the data from that seems to be in a different place in the database, and I haven't had time to contact the state and find out why that is, because I would think it would be in one place. But in the short term, this election doesn't have a question in it, and what we have done is implement a new step to where first thing they do in testing is pull it up on the screen and look at it before they continue on with their regular logic and accuracy test.
Okay, before the election is open to the public.
Exactly, so that we're not waiting until we're further on into the testing process. In regards to the uploading the memory cards, we do have checklists. The checklists show how many memory cards each poll has. In this case, the checklist, the cards came back and the person received them and put 2. And then the next checklist is when they're uploaded. The person that uploads puts a check mark, and this had 2 check marks. So it was human error. But what we're going to do is pull a report either election night or the next morning and compare what is uploaded to what we believe the numbers should be. And we did not do that until we were preparing for our audit. but we'll pull that up in the process as well.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Gamble.
Janine, this is for you. So on the cellular pole pad pilot that was done, is that why some individuals were required to completely power off their cell phones before they went into the polling location?
No, it's on a different cellular network. It's on the same type of network that Homeland Security uses for emergencies. So people are asked not to use their cell phone. I think some poll workers take that a little too far. They don't understand that direction so much, and they're asking people to power them down when that's not necessary. They just don't, they shouldn't be using it in the poll.
Thank you. Richardson?
Yeah, I really just want to make sure that, because governance is really what we're talking about here when we're looking at the checks and balances and how we're operating our protocols. So, you know, there should be, like, there's a checklist in terms of how many cards we're expecting to receive, but also how many votes are tied to that and whether or not those totals equal one another. I think that's another fail-safe that can be put in to use a total vote count universe and see where there may be something missing or lacking, especially since those things are predetermined. And I don't mean before the election, but I mean once it's being sent over, there are totals assigned to those cards. So I know we're going into a runoff, so it's really just making sure that we have those governance standards in place. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to have at least some type of report so that we know that each of the issues that were outlined, that there has been something in place to either do a double check on that, just for an awareness sake. I would appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Richardson, are you requesting something substantive, a written report with regard to these issues that we've discussed today, or are you talking like a written report with respect to those?
So these issues, the
Yes.
governance that's going to be put in place in order to make sure it's not something that we should see again.
Okay.
So we've talked through some of them tonight. You've
Understood.
shared some of that with us. Just looking for some of that correspondence to be in writing just for an awareness standpoint.
Okay, absolutely. It'd just be a sense of managing expectations. As noted, we're obviously focused on the election itself. Then there'll be root cause analysis that takes place, conversations with Director Eveler and the individuals that are actually performing those tasks. The next step thereafter would be to ensure that the governance that you're making reference to is in place and it's documented. And it would be after that that we'd be able to provide a written report to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to manage expectations.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I have to say that this was the easiest and fastest I've ever voted. The poll pad thing really did reduce the time, not having to sit at the table, fill out paperwork and, you know, the different steps. And I think it was great. I never saw any lines, and I was in and out in 5 minutes or less. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear you say that you're going to have some dedicated person to the absentee voting because of what happened with the ones not getting mailed out, and a, you know, check and balance there. So that's good. As with regard to absentee ballots, you know, it used to be only for military or hardship, or if you were out of the state, out of country or whatever, you had to apply and have a reason or a hardship. Who determines that? Is that up to the local board of elections or the Secretary of State?
That's actually up to the legislature.
Okay, to go, if they wanted to go back to that?
Right, they would have to go back to that. That was changed, I believe, in 2012, or might have been 2008. It was one of the presidential years.
Okay. Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Sheffield?
Thank you. I have a few questions on the Mableton cityhood to follow up on. And there's concern in the community that several have not received the ballot with the Mableton cityhood question on the ballot, but they are in the proposed boundaries. So is there a way that you guys are able to track who did not receive a ballot or receive that question on their ballot?
Yeah, we would have to know the names of the people or the streets that they're on and do investigations on those individually.
Okay, all right. And also in your presentation, if we can flip through, there was a reference to a, go back one to the Mableton, yeah. The 20 registered voters, I don't know that I caught what that explanation was for.
So there was a street segment, 3915 through 3936 Brantley Drive. It's actually right in the heart of the region that was in the referendum. And it was just not coded to be in the city. So one of those voters, contacted us, thought that they should be in the cityhood referendum, and they didn't have it on their ballot. So that was corrected.
Okay, so were they able to cast a vote for it?
6 people voted in person prior to the correction, but the people that complained, they were able to.
They were,
because
okay.
They corrected it, we corrected it for them, or for the whole street, but they brought it to our attention.
Okay, so what would be the process then, and how should we communicate to those that should have had it on their ballot but did not have it? What would be the process or the next steps for them?
Well, we are going to be having another election at some point for mayor and council, so we do want to get that corrected if there are errors in that. But we haven't received any of those comments from people, so if we could get names, then we could find out what the situation is.
Okay, so should those residents contact Cobb Board of Elections?
Yes, if they believe they're in the cityhood, the city of Mableton, and they did not see it on their ballot, then they would need to contact us.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Just a note of curiosity, we've changed polling precincts many times in the past where people have had to change sites where they vote. Can you help me understand how this process was different for changing these district lines versus polling districts? Why the number of errors with this versus with that process?
Well, the errors in this redistricting, this was an every 10-year redistricting. So all of the jurisdictions, the levels of government changed. And that becomes more fractured as you go down to, say, school board and the cityhoods. You have 4 U.S. congressional districts, but then you have, 6 state senate, and then you have another 14. So they become more fractured as you go down. It's not necessarily the precinct lines. The precinct lines don't change, at least they didn't with the redistricting, but the number of split precincts become greater.
That's what I'm referring to, yes, when we...
And then school board being that lower level jurisdiction, it then has the most fractures, the most split districts down at that level, because then you're piling on all the upper level jurisdictions, and the changes become greater. And then we added in 4 cityhood efforts, and that was another layer even more.
Okay. When the polling location has changed, the voter will get a card that will alert them of that. Is it possible for there to be a similar process? I know hindsight is 20/20, but in this instance where we had a new city being created, is there a way that that card could be generated to inform the voter that this is now a race that is going to be contested in that voter's polling location?
As a result of redistricting, every voter in the county was issued a new precinct card with their new districts. And
okay,
yeah, and so the ones that were in the cityhood, they had an E, an M for Mableton, a V, an E, and Lost Mountain, L.
So it was on their card.
Yes.
Very interesting.
I mean, people didn't really know what to look for because, you know, it didn't have like, hey, you're in the Mableton district. But they did receive a new card with their new representatives that would be on the ballot.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for being here. I know this is tough.
Yeah, it's very tough.
And for everyone, and I don't need to tell you just how important it is that we just establish confidence in our voting process. This is something that is just so unique for us in Cobb County. We know that you were just recognized as Election Director of the Year for the state, and it's because your processes have always been tight year after year after year after year. So I'm sure as much as we're surprised and the public is, I know you have to be as well. And you've mentioned the number of variables that have changed.
Yes, ma'am. You know, I'm thankful that I've gotten that recognition, but this hurts really, really badly, that we have to come to you and tell you what kinds of things are going wrong, that I had to go in front of my board and tell you what's going wrong. And it's not that, you know, anybody is lax in my office. You know, when I left, there were still 40 people working. You know, people work really hard. It's a lot of manual, tedious work. And there's you know, we've gotten more people in place since the Board of Commissioners has done the pay study and the pay has gone up. That has been a good thing for us because we have seen people more eager to work with us. But it's going to be a struggle to get people really trained and to get those processes in place. And we're going to do it because I want to be cognizant of the community's trust in us, and I want that to come back for sure because we've been very successful over the many years I've been doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Typically, our relationship is arm's length with the Board of Elections. And so, you know, you are the purveyor of that process, but we do provide resources. So if there's anything that we can do as a board to help support you, that's what we're here for. Just need to let us know. You know, we've all recognized how significant and important voting is to our county and to, you know, a society. And we want to make sure we're doing right by you. So if there's anything that we can do, please let us know, you know, budget-wise or otherwise.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioners, it's now 8 o'clock. Are you comfortable rolling into the next part of our agenda? Okay, very good. I believe we are at public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Before we turn the podium over to public comment, if I can go through.
Sorry, Bill, before you do that, I forgot,
Yes.
we did have something special we wanted to do before we did that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, County Manager, please.
Chairwoman, Commissioners, this is just a brief shout out. I would like to ask our EMA Director, Ms. Cassie Maslam, if she would step forward. This is just a shout out for her. Many of you may not know that Cassie was just recently named by a state board as EMA Director of the Year. Cassie worked so very hard during COVID to make sure that we were all prepared and the planning that goes into it, and she continues to do that every single day, whether it's a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. Cassie and her small team is always right there to make sure that we are informed and we know what's happening in the county. In addition to that, during that little thing called the World Series last year, she and her team, as well as the entire team of public safety, just went above and beyond to make sure, you know, the 1 million+ people who happened to be around the Battery during that time were also safe. So, Cassie, I just want to say congratulations on your award as EMA Director of the Year, and just to say how proud we are. And so I would just like for you all to give her a round of applause to say thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, now, Bill.
Certainly. As the board provides the podium for public comment, it's appropriate to review the related meeting rules. Please state your name, and if you're speaking on behalf of an organization, all comments should be addressed through the chair. Public comment is not a dialogue with the board, but an opportunity for speakers to provide their comments to the board. The comments should not be impertinent, derogatory, offensive, or slanderous. To that end, the board encourages, regardless of the topic, for the audience to be respectful and courteous to the speakers. Everyone attending this meeting should give others the right to both listen and be heard by treating each other with civility. The statements made during the public comments portion do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the board or the administration of Cobb County government. And just as a reminder, there is a timer on the podium for you to keep track of your 5-minute time. The first speaker is Matthew Stegall.
Hello, Chair. Hello, Commission. My name is Matthew Stegall, and I am honored to serve on the Transit Advisory Board for Cobb County. I have one question. Is tonight the night? Is tonight the night our county finally takes an important step in bringing better mobility to the people who live in, work, and visit our community? We still have a long way to go, but is tonight the night we take our first official step in putting a transit referendum on the ballot for voters in 2024? Sometimes transit can become political, but tonight presents us an opportunity to come together in a bipartisan way and do one simple thing: take our first step forward. Why is this so important for the county? We know we already have traffic, we know we're growing, we know about the economic benefits, and we know it provides equitable access and opportunities for everyone. I usually come up here and talk about these benefits using data and referencing studies, but today I want to talk about what I've seen this week as I've driven around the county. And that's right, I said driven. I'm a huge champion for transit in this county, and I try to use it every chance I get. But the level of service we provide in this county makes it very difficult. It doesn't go where I live, it doesn't take me where I need to go, and it's not frequent enough. And even when I do use it, the experience has barriers and challenges that makes it difficult. If we survey this room, it's likely that most of us made the same choice that I did to drive here alone. And I understand that I stand here privileged to be able to have that choice. And up until now, we've looked at our transit service in this county as providing a solution for those who have no other choice. It is extremely difficult to get around this county, have access to jobs, education, and healthcare without a car. And then we wonder why ridership is so low and use that to justify not investing in transit more. And as I drove around the county, I saw pedestrians crossing busy streets with no crosswalk, or walking around Highway 41 in the grass with no sidewalk. I saw transit riders waiting in the rain with no shelter, and I saw bikers biking on the same streets as cars going 55 miles per hour. And tonight is our night to be able to change that. Tonight is not binding, there's no plan to approve, and there's not even any funding. But tonight is the night we can take a step forward and start asking the right questions we need to answer to bring a ballot referendum to voters in 2024. And my ask is that not only does this measure pass, but it's passed beyond partisan lines, and that would send a signal to everyone that this county is united in bringing better mobility to its residents. And thank you for your time and everything you do to move this county forward. Thank you.
The next speaker is Angela Nguyen.
Good evening. My name is Angela Nguyen. I'm here to talk on eviction, the 7 days. When I saw the black woman and her 3-month-old baby had 7 days while waiting on rental assistance, I'm a black woman. I'm still waiting during the holiday. I wish they would stop the 7-day eviction. I wonder if anybody truly care. I call, and I call for help. I thank God truly for Miss Monica for keeping me and praying for me. Please pray for me. I go to court on December 2nd at 1:30 p.m. I'm praying that I don't get the 7 days like the black woman with the 3-month-old baby that she was holding, and I dropped my head 2 weeks ago. Thank you, God, and I thank Monica for checking on me with these terrible times. Thank you.
Monica Delancey.
Good evening, Monica Delancey, Riverside Community, Austell, unincorporated Austell, Georgia. November is National Parent Involvement Month. Last Saturday, on November 12th, We Thrive in Riverside Rental Association held a parent leadership brunch at Trinity United Methodist Church. We had 35 parents that attended along with their children, and we were inspired by the 2018 Cobb County School District Teacher of the Year, Nicole Kempson, who came out and inspired us of how she went back to college while her son was in first grade, and by the time he graduated from college, she had earned the district Teacher of the Year. So it was such a nice story for her to come out and share with us. In addition, I want to talk about these evictions. We need for these evictions to have a moratorium, especially during the holidays. When we know that, when I call Sweetwater and Must Management, Center for Federal Resources, they're trying to process applications. They're trying as hard as they can. Some apartment complexes are not taking funds from them. And then we have some apartment complexes know that they're trying to get assistance, and they're still telling the lawyer to not give any type of leniency. So it's unfortunate we go to eviction court, in Cobb County Master Court, and when it's 100 people in there at 9 o'clock in the morning, most of them are black families, women, and when at 1:30, again, another 100 people. So it's unfortunate we go there, and we go there to offer some guidance as far as resources, and let them know that, hey, we're gonna be all this together, because evictions are an act of violence. I'm just gonna say this. And it's not being me, it's not me being adversarial. It's me letting you know that when you have 2 kids looking at you every day, you're gonna do all you can to make sure they stay housed. And that's what we're gonna do. And when we talk about community partnerships, you just don't say, I wanna give you some flyers to pass out. If you have an event, you say, help me plan this event. But community partnership is not just giving somebody some flyers to pass out, because when you give me some flyers to pass out, I'm gonna give you an invoice all day. So people ask, what motivates me? I would like to reference Coach Deion, Primetime Sanders. I wake up motivated. Let me tell you something. When you get texts at 2 o'clock in the morning, people saying they're scared. When you get phone calls, not on 1 phone, but 2 phones, people saying, hey, what else can we do? We've done this, we've done that. Then I say, hey, let me show you how to ask for assistance from the people who gave the money to these organizations. It's not me trying to be adversarial, it's me showing them what they need to do, because nobody's coming to save us but ourselves. So that means that myself, Angela, and I have to come here tonight, because other people, they couldn't be here tonight because they had to go get some of those Thanksgiving baskets they was passing out all over town. I let them do that. But hear me today. I got time today to let you know that, yes, if I have to send an email myself every 30 seconds, I will do that, okay? We have to save these families. We have to make sure that they're not sitting out in the cold. I hear it's gonna be 27 degrees this weekend, 27 degrees this weekend. And it's unfortunate that all we can just say, well, the rental assistance there, well, most people that's applying already ran out. Some people that's applying, once they pay the back pay of $10,000, $8,000, that's it for them. So what's the plan? You're not approving for the department to build housing for people that are your essential workers. You're not approving for people to seek more time. So what are you telling these people? That's it, that's the laws. But in 2 years, you're gonna knock on these people's doors, if they're still there. In 2 years, you're gonna send postcards, you're gonna send texts, you're gonna send phone calls, and you're gonna beg for some votes. That's what you're gonna do, right? But right now, you're gonna tell these people, oh, well, this is the law. I'm gonna need you to do better than that. On this day, this time, on November the 17th, 2022, I'm gonna need you to do better than that. And so when you talk about partnerships, yes, call us to the table, because we can help plan. Yes, we can. When you're talking about when they have kids, today I went out to the school where they were having Thanksgiving lunch with parents, and parents are telling me the stories, hey, how can I get some Christmas assistance? How can we get that? And I'm looking at them, I hope you have a place to put the toys, because if you don't have a place to put the toys, what's the point of getting Christmas assistance? But yes, I'm gonna help them do what they can to make sure they put a smile on their children's face. Because if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. You're gonna do all you can, because my daughter is 22 years old, my son is 20, I still go out for them. I still would do that, because when I thrive, they thrive all day. And thank you very much. Have time today. Thank you.
Christine Rosman.
Chairwoman, Commissioners, thank you. Christine Rosman from Marietta. And I want to talk about the elections I did go to the Board of Elections meeting, and I was a volunteer. I was over at the new offices. I experienced hours and hours of downtime while we were, both Democrats and Republicans were there to do reviews. And we just witnessed, I don't want to say it was pathetic, but I can see that there are a lot of reasons why we have lost our confidence in our elections, and I appreciate you saying that and acknowledging that. Many of you have. And especially when we can look at what, a state like Florida does, and they have theirs all completed before, 10 o'clock at night, and they have millions more than we do. I know that has to do with our Secretary of State here and our processes that we use, but it's not rocket science. And there's a reason that we're not doing well, and I don't know what that is. If it's competence, incompetence, is it, you spend a lot of, Cobb County spends a tremendous amount of money with Deloitte and other consulting companies. Perhaps it's time to look at that, because this is not working out very well. Particularly the library and this new last call program they had. And it doesn't even seem that it is even in alignment with SB 202, because SB 202 says on Friday at 7 o'clock before the election, there's no more bringing in ballots until, Tuesday election day. And this new program that they put in place, that was all day Saturday and pretty much all day Monday at the libraries. And I went there as a concerned citizen. I looked at Mountain View, and we had information from Director Janine Eveler of what to expect, what you can do. You can ask what the numbers are. Here's what the law is when people are bringing their ballots. I mean, all the things are the reasons why we didn't want to have these ballot boxes outside. So I'm witnessing a woman come in. She has like a couple of bags of, or envelopes, manila envelopes full of ballots. And they asked, "Oh, is this for you?" "No, it's for a friend." "And how about the rest of them?" "Oh, they're friends of that friend." And I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. This is why we didn't want to have ballot boxes out in the middle of nowhere. So this is kind of in defiance a little bit with SB 202. In addition, we had a list of who was going to be working at these libraries, that they got deputized to be registrars, that they were able to handle the ballots. And I'm looking at Mindy Seeger, and lovely lady, but she's not on the list. She hasn't been deputized as far as this list goes, of what we could see. She wasn't assigned to that library, and she's handling the ballots and giving me information of, like when I asked about why somebody bringing in random ballots, that, "Oh, that's okay, they're just going to go into this box." And I thought, well, why are you even taking them to begin with? So this is the kind of stuff that it doesn't even make sense of what they're doing. I don't even know what to say other than this is really insulting and for Cobb County, and I don't know what's going to happen for this runoff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairwoman, that concludes the first portion of our public comment this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know public comment isn't a dialogue, but I do want to share some comments with respect to evictions and share that this is something that is near and dear to the hearts of many of us on the board, and we are very concerned about maintaining stable housing for our families. As part of tonight's agenda, we will be voting on a 2023 legislative agenda, and there is a policy matter that was put forward by Commissioner Sheffield, which is to address the evictions process. And the matter reads that Cobb County supports revisions to the evictions process to equally preserve landlord and tenant rights. So being mindful of both parties. A lot of the process, most of the process, if not all of it, is within the authority of the state. We follow state law. And so while we cannot change that 7-day window of evictions, what we can do is petition for our legislators at the state to change that window and to change some of their policies so that they can be more friendly towards those who are tenants. I want to emphasize that we do want to partner with you, and that, you know, a house divided can't stand. If we're working against each other, it just makes it hard for us to go together as a unified force to address these issues. We may be on different sides as far as vulnerability, but I can assure you that the heart is there. And I just encourage you, particularly if you're interested in being involved in the legislative session, to know that we will be a friend down at the Capitol. Okay. I also want to share, just in the last meeting, we received millions of dollars to put forward to our ERA 2 program that will provide anyone assistance through our 4 providers here. And you don't have to have a COVID-related evictions matter. You just need to have been evicted during the pandemic, and I believe the pandemic is still considered to be ongoing. And so we are here to help connect you with those resources. Monica, we appreciate you connecting residents to those resources. As residents don't come to you, and if they come to us, we will also do the same thing. Please see us as a partner. Those are funds that have come to the county that we are partnering with our agencies to help provide. It may feel like you're alone, but you're not alone, because those organizations too have people that work for them that are working on your behalf to keep you housed. Okay. All right, before we go into the consent agenda for tonight, Commissioners, I do want to share that the Superior Court Clerk has pulled agenda item number 5 for consideration for this evening. And so I know there was a request by at least one, if not 2 commissioners to pull that off of consent. It will actually be pulled off the agenda for consideration for today. So with that, prior to our meeting, the consent agenda items were scrolling on the screen, and they will scroll on the screen after tonight's meeting. We vote on these items in bank. And we just had that one revision that we shared, Commissioner. Yes. Yes, I was going to read my notes here, but thank you, and it's okay. We have had, not yet, but thank you. Hey, I appreciate you having my back. I want to also share we've had other revisions to the consent agenda. Consent items 9 and 10 from the published agenda have been withdrawn. And so with that, Commissioners, I move that we approve the items on our consent agenda as have been revised, and to authorize execution of the necessary documents by the appropriate county personnel. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Yes, Commissioner Gamble.
I do not support agenda item number 11.
It says it's the fire department here, and I have that has been withdrawn also. Oh, okay, so my 11 may be different.
Yeah, the first item.
Okay, mine's showing a different 11. Give me. Which item is Cassie's item? Okay, mine is numbered differently. Do you have that noted?
Yes.
And which number do you have that as, Commissioner Gambrell?
I have it as number 11, and it's the Presidential Declaration Designation of FEMA 4501 DRGA.
Okay, I have that. Okay, thank you. So the clerks will know Commissioner Gambrill is not in support of that item. Are there any other comments from commissioners? With that, I call the question. The consent agenda is approved 5-0, again noting Commissioner Gambrill's opposition to agenda item 11 pertaining to EMA. With that, we will move on to our regular agenda, and bear with me one moment. We will move to the green sheet, and this one is pertaining to the City of Mableton. Oh, we added that to consent, not add. Okay, all right. We don't need to add that. Very good. Give me 1 second here. All righty. Our next regular agenda item comes from the county manager's office. And I believe that's going to be Jimmy Giese.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Madam County Manager. Our first item tonight is to present to the board for your consideration the 2023 state legislative agenda. Annually, we have the opportunity to come together with our delegation in December and break bread with them, and also talk about issues that are relevant at the Capitol. And it also gives us an opportunity, or you as a board, an opportunity to present items to our local delegation of issues that are pertinent to excuse me, pertinent to us here in Cobb County. So each of you has been presented under separate cover a draft of the 2023 legislative agenda. It's also been placed up on the board if you would like for us to go through each point. This is still a work in progress. If there are things tonight that you would like either deleted or added or expanded upon, we can do that as long as that notation is made in the motion at the end. So at this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions or however you would like to proceed.
Yes, Jimmy, for the benefit of the public, you don't have to read the entire legislative agenda, but can you briefly touch on the matters that are included?
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely. We had a conversation, the county manager and I, on the format of our agenda last year. It was a little brief. All it had was bullet points. And we thought this year to go into a little bit more detail, not writing a book on each item, but at least giving a little description on each one of the items which we're looking to place upon the agenda. So under transportation, the local maintenance and improvement grant, better known as LMIG, one of the source of funding for the LMIG program from the state is normally the gasoline tax. With the state gasoline tax being suspended for a certain amount of time this year, we're urging, along with other counties, that the state not penalize the LMIG program in its 2024 budget appropriation. Major mobility investment program, this concerns a lot of the managed lanes on 285, 75 corridors, just that we support the state's investment program on that. Under general government, under the creation of new cities, this is an issue which is near and dear to our heart in that the situation we have faced this year. We're urging the state in this process to make it more transparent so that the residents understand what is coming about prior to going to the polls. Under home rule, you have the design standards, short-term rentals, and build-to-rent subdivisions. This is not saying that we either support or oppose those things. What it's saying is that we oppose the preemption of the state government telling Cobb County or any county what they can and cannot do in the process. So it is an issue against preemption from the state legislature. Under the evictions process, this item says that we support revisions to the eviction process, understanding that it currently weighted heavily toward the landowner, but to balance that up to where the landowners and tenants have equally preserved their rights. Under landlords and inspections, we do have a lot of situations where these properties are, to say they're fit to live in might be a stretch, but to be able to have some type of an inspection process to make sure that they're safe for tenants. To assume full financial responsibility for state prisoners. Currently, I'm sure the sheriff could give us the exact amount, but what we receive from the state does not cover the full cost of what it costs us to house state prisoners. We're asking for a full accountability of that money. The public notification of a tax increase. All we're basically doing here is urging the General Assembly to adjust the formula for the rollback rate to allow counties to adjust for inflation. Under mental health in the courts, mental health reform is becoming more and more and more of an issue, having gone through the ARPA process, a grant process recently. The number of people facing mental health problems these days is growing tremendously. And being able for us to ask the state legislature to expand or to continue down that road of providing good mental health reform is one of the goals. Juvenile court, urging the state to to look at the process and the way that juvenile court judges are appointed, currently tied to the number of the caseload of Superior Court judges, and nobody can really find a direct correlation between those two things, but just asking the state to look at that. PTSD insurance for first responders. Our first responders are faced with horrific situations, both on the phone, in person. Our 911 dispatchers, they run the gamut every day, along with our first responders who go out to scenes. We would support that being classified as a qualifying event for insurance. And then also the continued support for Dobbins Air Reserve Base with the different large contracts coming out on certain types of aircraft. We would just ask our state to continue supporting Dobbins Air Force Base.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners, do you have any comments, questions, additions? I'll start with you, Commissioner Gamble.
So, Jimmy, I know I responded to you in an email, but I'll put this on the record and ask the board to consider we add these to our legislative priorities. Speed indicators to issue traffic tickets. I know I've spent a lot of time speaking with Drew Ressler and DOT, and then also Chief Van Hooser and Deputy Chief Farrell on this issue. Typically, these are found in school zones, but we would like to see if we could get legislation written to put these in various areas throughout the county. And of course, that would take a legislative action of the board or of the legislators to do so. So I'd like to have that added to that. And then also, in our stormwater development standards, it requires pancaking the site, which is what's giving us these slopes that are being created in these developments, which if the developers don't secure these slopes, then adjacent property owners are having damage from rain when these slopes start to fall and come apart. So my understanding, and this is talking with Carl Carver, so he'd be a better one to have this further conversation with, is what created this pancaking in the slopes, which then requires essentially the clear cutting of the land and remanufacturing of it is a development standard. So if we could look at that, just to ensure that protection gets put in place for the adjacent property owner, that their land doesn't get eroded away in the process.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to discuss that, or do you just want to add?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to ask, can we not address that in our developmental standards and zoning process?
It's state. These are state requirements that we have to follow.
Wetland buffers and things like that, okay.
Yep.
Because we have our own too.
Right, and so, and this is kind of why it evolved into the OSC zoning code, is that way the developers didn't have to do the entire site, they only had to do the portion where they were building on. But the revisions that have happened over the years have required extensive grading, and I know in my district, they've really taken the land, the topography down many, many feet, creating slopes to the adjacent property owners that over time have been eroding away. It also is creating issues for the homeowners within developments that have these slopes behind their homes, because again, the water erodes them over time, and then the homeowners have to maintain these slopes. And I can get with each of you individually and give you examples and tell you where to come in my district to see this.
I'm not opposed to adding it, but it would be helpful to hear from staff with respect to this. I see Jessica's here, and then she also mentioned Carl, which makes me think this is a water issue. I just haven't heard any feedback from staff with respect to these matters. Development standards are typically something that's internal. I'm not aware of how this does dovetail into state law. So if we can get some help from staff to address this tonight, this can help give us some clarity on how to move forward.
Our hero.
Good evening. There are state requirements that we have to follow with respect to stormwater and things that we have to do. I don't know all the details of those, so I would have to get with staff to understand what are the state requirements and how those fall into our community development standards. But some of the things that we have in our standards are required to be in our standards by the state.
Okay. Commissioner Richardson?
Perhaps we can include in the motion that we cover this area after getting with staff, add it to the actual agenda for the appropriate language. Is that how we can make that, is that how we could include that in the motion?
Yeah, I think we should somehow just provide that we will be assessing this for how to move forward with the state, so it's on our radar.
Sure. One of the things that we can do at any point, up to and even during the session,
Right.
by resolution, the board can identify certain or specific things that they would like for us to pursue. This would be a good example of, once we get with Judy's staff and maybe ACCG, come up with model wording, possibly, of legislation that would address this. And then by resolution, the board would then endorse it, and that would be attached to the sample legislation that would go downtown, if that's acceptable.
Okay, like I shared, I'm not opposed to us finding a way to put this on here. It's just not clear specifically
Sure.
how to do that. So we can
We can
put in here, I mean, is this a stormwater matter? This seems like a grading. Because I know last year we did
Ultimately,
have
it's
stormwater.
Ultimately, it is stormwater.
Okay.
Yeah, we can add a header on site development / stormwater
Site development.
that we would pursue with staff
Okay.
language to address this.
You amenable, everyone? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So there's that matter, and then there's the speed indicator matter. And again, I know when we were addressing it in the school zones, there was considerable conversation with staff, and I've just not heard from staff any communication with respect to this. I know the legality of it was a significant hurdle
Sure.
that we had to address. I don't know, again, what ramifications it could have if we try to extend this beyond the school zone. I'm not opposed to looking at it.
We can do the same type wording where we talk about with staff's assistance going in and pursuing options, and we can make it sound good.
You can make it sound good, Jimmy?
Make it sound good.
Thank you.
We can put lipstick on the pig.
Okay.
Don't bring up it.
All right. You weren't here.
I know, but I was watching.
I'd just add something for the speed indicator side. I know that there has been an ongoing conversation within DOT for expanding speed calming technologies and strategies, and I don't know if it's premature to add that for the legislative agenda or where that is within DOT, but I know that was a conversation
Come on
between
up,
DOT and the
Drew.
state.
Come on up.
I was gonna say, I'll ask Drew this question because he and I kind of had the conversation.
It's the Walk of Fame.
Hey, Drew. So I know in our conversations, and I don't remember when the agenda item was passed earlier this year, but we passed an agenda item to allow DOT to explore other traffic calming measures. And I know one of my conversations I had with you, this was a potential option, correct?
Sure. So just a couple different things all wrapped together. So I'll try to break those down. State law currently allows for speed detection devices, automated speed detection devices in school zones during school time frames pursuant to the school zone speed limit. That law requires that the school district sign off on it. PD's involved. It goes to the Georgia Department of Transportation, Georgia Department of Public Safety. So there's a fairly lengthy process, but it is very limited to just school zones and during the school zone speed limit being effective. As far as the task order that we have undertaken with Kimley Horn, that's looking at all types of traffic calming devices. Now, the caveat being all traffic calming devices that are allowed by state law. So by allowing for local control for these speed detection devices outside of school zones or outside of school times does allow for more flexibility at the local level to be able to deploy these at other locations.
Okay, so that's how we can connect it back to state law. We have the general government section. Maybe add that here to seek local control for what Drew just stated. That can incorporate both what Commissioner Gambrill and Richardson are proposing. Okay, great. Thank you. Did you have any other additions, Commissioner Richardson?
Always, but we're good. This is good.
All right, good. I'll take good. Pearl.
Additional funding for Gritters and the Veterans Memorial. We can ask.
Put it out there, right?
We can ask.
Well, the word, it's a proverb. You have not because you ask not. So let's go ahead and ask. Okay.
We did have them on there last year too, but we still need money to build them out. So I'd like to add those two if y'all agree with.
Nothing new to
Wait a minute.
add.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to. Are we amenable? I said I am, but do we have consensus to add that?
Okay.
All right. Good deal.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Commissioner Sheffield.
Jimmy's adding.
I was waiting to see the nod.
On the evictions process, I'm not completely familiar what the current revisions are, but I do want to draw attention to the wording as it relates to what happens with the possession. So right now, when tenants are evicted, their possessions are left on the street. And I'm just not sure, what we can do about that on a state level to change that, if there's like maybe some type of storage. I'm not sure of all of the details, but if the revisions does not address this particular issue, that's one of the things that I don't know if I need to get with legal or whomever to ensure that that's addressed.
Well, we can speak with Sheriff Owens' staff that handles the evictions, talk with Judge Murphy to kind of see how it's dictated by state law now, and that'll give us somewhere where we need to aim for to fix what we'd like to do.
So maybe we can broaden what we have here under evictions.
We'll do that.
Okay. All right, commissioners. So we have what we were provided by Jimmy Giese on the form. Then I have the addition of speed indicators with respect to our speed calming, and you'll capture that language here.
Yes, ma'am.
Stormwater, gritters and the Veterans Memorial, and then broadening the text around evictions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with that, commissioners, I move that we approve the 2023 legislative agenda as has been revised.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, commissioners.
Our final item is for the board to approve an appropriation of 2021 American Rescue Plan Act funds to assist with recruitment and retention of certified sworn employees within Cobb County Public Safety and the Cobb County Sheriff's Office. And I'm joined in a tag team effort for this item by our Public Safety Director, Director Randy Crider, who's going to give you a little of the background, and then I'll wrap it into a bow.
Yeah, I think over conversations that I've had with all of you over the past, not just weeks, but I think months, as we have seen a challenge of recruiting and retaining certified and sworn staff within public safety and the Sheriff's Department. With that, we were having conversations with y'all, and we got some direction to go out and talk to our people that currently work with us and also compile a survey with the details of why we've had people leave Cobb County Public Safety. And though there's been a variety of reasons, overwhelmingly it was focused on better pay and better benefits. And then second were just people getting out of the profession. And so recognizing that other jurisdictions around us were doing things that were getting some of our folks, let's just be real, we felt like we had to do something, put something of significance together to at least be a stopgap for until we can further look at the data that we collected to come up and be creative with ideas of what can we do long-term to attract and retain certified and sworn staff within public safety and the Sheriff's Department. So in the agenda item, you see the amount of vacancies that we have in those 4 areas, also to include our 911. We've never experienced these types of vacancies before. And so as we approach this, obviously our challenge is how are we going to fund it? And walking the halls with you to talk about using ARPA funding, we felt like that this would be a good use of these dollars, understanding and being cognizant of the fact that there would be some ongoing costs. And so what we're asking for you to do is to allocate 2 years of ARPA funding to fund this entire program. However, come March or April, when you start seeing what additional funding sources that we may recognize, there's the opportunity that you may only have to fund half of what we have allocated for 24. And then in 25, you'll have to make that decision on where are we then to continue funding what we're putting in place. So we are very, very cognizant of the fact that we do not want to put a future board in an unfair situation, but we also recognize that we have this ARPA funding and that if we can use it fully for 1 year and then reevaluate come March or April to see if we may only need half of what we allocate for FY24 and years moving forward. So The recommendation that we have to you is there in front of you, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Giese to state the recommendation. But as you can see in the numbers right now, since when we implement this in January, we will have been completed one full quarter of FY23. So you'll see that the funding for the remainder of FY23 is going to be less than what it is of FY24. And our one-time cost for items that's in this plan that are one-time costs will be for 23 only, and we will not have to pay for those again for 24, and that's 1.9 some odd millions of dollars as you have in the agenda item. So just wanted to give you a good background. And let me say this, I was very adamant that when we were putting this plan together that we take care of our current employees first, because those are the employees that have stuck with us. They've been loyal to Cobb County. We wanted to take care of them first. We didn't want to do something for new people coming in that overshadowed the commitment and loyalty that we have with our current employees. And so also we're going to revisit our lateral entry program to make it more of a true lateral entry program. We will go back and fix those current laterals that we have that have been here for several years now, and that new lateral program will be in effect moving forward with some significant signing incentives for those laterals and non-laterals who may want to come to work with Cobb. So we've put together what we hope to be a very attractive plan to attract new people here, and by certainly we want to make sure that we try to retain the ones that we do have. So the plan is before you. We've met with all of you, and we understand that there was some funding, maybe not 100% in support of how we're funded. I'm not really 100% comfortable with how it's being funded either, but I do know that we as a county have to do something to make sure that we continue providing public safety for our residents, and I believe what we've put before you here is kind of a stopgap for hopefully some long-term solutions that we can come back and revisit for our employees. Mr. Giese.
And Commissioners, on the ARPA side of the house, which I'm dealing with frequently these days, at least one of you has registered concerns that we were depleting the entire public safety bucket in our guidance plan, and that is not the case. We have looked at some reserves in the ARPA account. I'm sure you don't remember back to April when it was approved, but there were 5 buckets: community health, public safety, county infrastructure, economic development, and support services. In that report, there was also a $12 million contingency. There was a $10 million revenue set aside, and then there was a $10 million administrative cost, which covers like Deloitte's help and things like that. This goes into the $12 million reserve, and it goes into $2 million out of the administrative cost. There was already $3.36 million identified for public safety recruitment and retention. So we take that in. And then it was approximately $3 million that we took off the top of the bucket of public safety itself, which leaves in excess of $10 million in the public safety bucket for projects that have been submitted. So we have not depleted the public safety account. When we start bringing those forward during hopefully January of 23, you will see public safety projects brought forward as well. So with all that we've given you, we ask that the Board of Commissioners approve an appropriation of 2021 American Rescue Plan Act funds in an amount of $20,642,172.11 from identified public safety and contingency allocations to assist with recruitment and retention of certified sworn employees within Cobb County Public Safety and Cobb County Sheriff's Office, which is project number 1.40 in our ARPA process. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So moved as presented.
Second.
And discussion, please. Ms. Commander.
Jimmy, thank you. But I'd also like to thank the Cobb Local Firefighters Union, because I know they put a lot of time into the step and grade. process, and I just appreciate their time and effort that they did taking with me to explain the steps. But I also think it's an important step for the county to show that we are willing to work with our employees to come to a resolution.
Yes, ma'am.
Richardson?
Ditto on the comments. Just one question for clarification under funding, where you kind of went through each of the bucket allocations. Does this need to be updated to reflect that? Because it just says ARPA contingency 14 million and then public safety allocation 6 million, just for the book, is that?
I think it would be helpful to clarify.
Yeah, I just broke it down further than that when I was talking.
Okay, okay.
Yes, but
I just went a little deeper.
I'm in support of clarifying it further because you share different buckets
Well, no,
that are more specified than
Sure.
the contingency.
Sure. I actually broke it down a little deeper, but I probably shouldn't have went that deep. But basically, we have several
I was going to ask, so I'm glad that you did.
When you deal with it every day, it becomes secondhand knowledge. We're bringing in 14 million from contingency accounts. One is the $12 million contingency off the top, and then the 2 million. Amen. You're good.
Chair won't want to hear the rest.
12 million from,
You want me to keep going? Okay, all right. The $12 million from the contingency account, which was our overall contingency, is 12 million.
okay. And then
2
I
million.
have 2 million from,
2 million from the administrative support contingency account that pays Deloitte. Even if the board chooses to go with a third year, we would still have this $2 million, so we're good there. So that's 12 and 2, 14.
okay.
In the public safety bucket, there was 3.36 million for recruitment and retention, so we're taking that. And then 3 million off the top of the public safety buckets. That gives us our 6. Am I getting closer to?
Okay.
Okay.
And we still have
Still
how
have,
much in the bucket for projects?
still have over $10 million in the public safety bucket for projects.
Now, my other question is going to be, when we did the increases for public safety, there were some certified DA officers, and we have EMA certified. Are they not included in here?
Not certified.
What's the difference of the certified officers?
Well, you have certified in both, you had certified and non-certified in both police, fire, 911, and the sheriff's department. We have certifications, and I'll get with Cassie. I don't know of any certifications within her house, but we will look at those, and we will be able to absorb. You're only talking probably less than a handful.
Well, she only has a handful.
But I don't think
in her
any of her,
department.
I don't
But
think
she's
any of,
certified, isn't she?
I don't think any of Cassie's people will fit into this because they were affected by the comp and class study where these people were not.
What about the certified DA people that were included when we did the increase in public safety?
We will absorb them in this.
But they're not listed?
No, there's so few of those.
Well, I know, but I want to make sure they're included, and is that going to change the cost?
It will not change the cost. I'll work with the DA because they also were included in the comp and class.
Okay, well, it's confusing.
But then they're not part of it.
They're on step and grade. So they will continue on the step and grade increases, but they will not be a part of it.
Okay, well, you can tell the DA that. Okay.
I know this is something we need to do. I know this is something we need to do to be competitive.
Yes, ma'am.
And I've shared this before, and I'll share it again. I'm very concerned about us stepping outside of our general budgeting principle of using recurring funding with recurring expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
The ARPA dollars is not a recurring funding source. It's a one-time funding source. And you acknowledged at some point we're going to have to evaluate how we put this in our budget.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I just want to let the commissioners know I will be looking at next year's budget to see how we can incorporate it, and ask that we not wait until '25, because we will be doing to the next board what we have been saying has been done to us. We will be kicking a can of funding down the road, knowing that this is a cost we should be paying for and absorbing in our general fund today. We will be burdening a future board based on these actions when we know that this should be a general fund cost. I'm very concerned about that.
I understand.
So I appreciate what we're doing. Again, I know we need to be competitive, but I'm just sharing here, and I'll just ask, the clerks to put a note in, because that's how strongly I feel that we've got to get this into the general fund. That I will evaluate this in the budget proposal for the next fiscal year.
But you're asking for 2 years of ARPA
Right now, this is my concern.
with a revisit in 1 year.
Yes, there you go. Yes, we're going to set aside for 2 years,
Right.
revisiting this for next year. You said that perfectly. I wish I could have said it that clearly when I spoke to you on the phone today, Jimmy.
Well, I thought that's what we talked about when we
did.
discussed it.
Yeah, we did.
That's not how it's written in the agenda book, though.
You're-
In the agenda book, it doesn't have us evaluating this until the 2 years is over. And that's why. Okay, so revise the motion. I'm listening. Help me, please. I just want to make sure there's adequate support to put forward a motion that supports this agenda item with us evaluating how we incorporate this in the general fund for our FY '24 budget. Are you amenable to that? Okay.
I would just say to accept
This is
this on
FY
a
'25 budget.
for 2 years with the ARPA money, with a revisit in 1 year to see how to move forward with it being sustainable or incorporated.
Yes, I just want us to do it next year and not for it to occur.
Well, to revisit it, we may still need another year of ARPA that we have.
That's why we're encumbering the 2-year, whatever the amount is for 2 years. But
20 minutes.
I'm just asking, please let us seriously look at how we put this in the budget for next year.
And I'll say this, as we walked the halls, that was the conversations that we had, and almost all of you agreed that let's put it aside for 2 years, reevaluate when we get our first look at next
Okay.
year's digest, and then make that decision then on moving forward.
So an easy way just to incorporate that in the motion is, well, you can add that sentence that we will evaluate this in next year's budget. Okay. Do I need to make a formal change or revision to the motion?
If you're going to add that language, yes, you would.
Okay. So Commissioners, I amend the motion to add that language as was stated to the original motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right, call the question. Was that a vote on just amending it, or was that a vote on the actual motion?
If there's a consensus to amend it, then that's okay. There seemed to be a general consensus to amend
Yeah.
it, so that was actually the vote on the motion itself.
Okay, as long as you perceive it as such, I want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy, and as Commissioner Gambrell said, for that of the firefighters union. Okay, we are now at the Sheriff's tab.
Well, good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Commissioners. What we have here is Sheriff's Office item, or on your agenda items number 22, that you authorize the purchase of additional mobile radios for the Sheriff's Office. This will be a replacement purchasing radios for our replacement vehicles.
All right. Commissioners, I move that we approve this agenda item as been presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Go Army, beat Navy.
No, go Navy.
Oh, man. Go Army, beat Navy. Take friendly fire. We are now on to our DOT tab.
Good evening, Drew Ressler, DOT. I was debating whether or not to talk college football. I'll hold it
No,
until after the
please.
agenda items. No. DOT has 6 items for your consideration tonight. Our first item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a sole source purchase agreement with Cartograph Systems LLC in an amount not to exceed $420,622 for proprietary software licenses and support maintenance plans for Cartograph system upgrade and enhancements. Project number B2582, authorize a corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the purchasing director to execute the 3-year purchase agreement effective January 14th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Traffic Calming USA LLC, an amount not to exceed $748,125 for resurfacing 2022 countywide high-friction surface treatment project number X2920. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Pursuant to our work session on October 25th, the department recommends the Board of Commissioners authorize staff to proceed with development of a project list for a 2024 mobility special purpose local option sales tax ballot referendum for November of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Advanced Sports Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $229,973 for drainage system repairs on Weatherstone Lane, project number B2261. Authorize a corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is recommend the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 2 final to the contract with Advanced Sports Construction LLC, savings to the project in the amount of $37,595.63 for drainage system repairs on Leafwood Drive Phase 2, project number D2867. Authorize a corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Our final item this evening is to recommend the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of a local maintenance and improvement grant program application for FY23 to the Georgia Department of Transportation for the resurfacing of county-maintained roads, project number B2909. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
We are now at our second public comment, and there are no speakers. So that takes us to the Commissioner's public address, and we will get started with Commissioner Gambrill.
Thank you. And it's time for our Christmas luncheon for senior veterans. Cobb seniors who are veterans are invited to a Christmas lunch on Thursday, December 8th from 11 to 2 p.m. at the Senior Wellness Center, 1150 Powder Springs Street in Marietta. You need RSVP to 770-528-1448 or email mike.nichols@cobbcounty.org. And backed by popular demand is our Mix and Mingle with the Holiday Twist. Put on your ugly Christmas sweaters and join us for Mix, Mingle, and Jingle on Friday, December 9th. You can enjoy Christmas-themed small group activities by the West Cobb Senior Center staff. Hot chocolate and cookies will be served. And no, I have not been contracted to do the cookies, just to clarify that. Registration is required. You need to contact the West Cobb Senior Center at 770-528-8200. And lastly, Cobb County government offices will be closed Thursday, November 24th and Friday, November 25th for the Thanksgiving holiday. As always, certain services and information remain available to the public 24/7 on our official website, which is cobbcounty.org. Happy Thanksgiving and enjoy safe travels.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Richardson.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure that'll be a recurring theme along this board. So going in, so from the office, we've got the Q3 Town Hall coming up, December 15th. So our quarterly Town Hall and strategic plan listening session both be held December 15th at the Boy Scouts of America building. The strategic plan session will begin at 5:30 and the town hall will begin at 6:30. So make sure you sign up using our QR code here, and we have some ads running around as well. So please join us and bring a friend. We also have the Future of Policing Town Hall coming up. It's a chance to meet your new chief. November 29th, 6 to 8, also at the Boy Scouts of America. Gadgets will be there, and the gadgets, some of them will include recon robots, drones, and flock systems. Units include SWAT, CAP, STEP, RTCC, and BOMB. And there will be a panel discussion to talk about some of the things that we are tackling and that we're looking forward to in collaboration with the community. Saturday, we've got our Service Academy Information Day. So this Saturday at Jim Miller Park at from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., it's your opportunity to meet with admission representatives from each of the service academies and local parent clubs. So thank you to our education cabinet seat for helping organize this. Looking forward to a successful Saturday. Community updates, veterans issues with the Cobb Law Library. The Cobb County Law Library will offer a public program on issues commonly faced by veterans of the armed forces. Veterans Legal Issues is set for Wednesday, November 30th at 3 p.m. in the Law Library. Registration is required for the free event, which will be given by Professor Alexander Scher, Director of the Veterans Legal Clinic at the University of Georgia School of Law. Space is limited for this seminar, and to register, please call the Law Library. That concludes all of my updates.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burrow.
Tomorrow is Cobb County GIS Day from 10 to 3 at Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Arts Center. Learn all about maps. It's very informative, and I've been to these in the past, and they are definitely worth going to. So it's a free event. It includes maps, posters, talks, a virtual fun run walk, raffles, and printables. So join us for GIS Day. And we also have a special event coming up at the Schweitzer Library. The library's Accessibility Services Department and I are hosting an event for all veterans, free pet adoptions. The Cobb County Animal Services Shelter will have their trailer there with adorable adoptable pets. They're free for veterans, but anyone who would like to adopt that day can come out and we'll make a deal. There is advanced voting for the runoff, December 6th runoff. And these are the dates and times. You can visit cobbelections.org for a detailed list of all the locations, the hours, and times. Happy Thanksgiving. Eat lots of turkey. And I would just like to say thank you. I'm very grateful for another 4 years in this position, and I'd like to offer a heartfelt thanks to my family, friends, and supporters for another successful election, allowing me to continue working for the citizens of Cobb for 4 more years. I appreciate the hard work and look forward to working with you all during my 4th term. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sheffield?
Thank you, Madam Chair. District 4 news and updates. Please note that District 4's monthly In the Zone meeting will be held on November 30th at 7 p.m. Planning Commissioner Michael Hughes and I will discuss December zoning cases and recap November's BOC zoning decisions. Our monthly In the Zone community meetings are a great way to learn firsthand about zoning applications and potential development in our community. Please email deidre.watts@cobbcounty.org for the meeting link. It is my hope that you will be able to join us. The Friends of Mableton and First Christian Church of Mableton would like to invite you to their first annual Christmas on the Square celebration on December 10th from 3 to 6 p.m. The church is located at 5220 Church Street in Mableton. The festivities will include the Pebblebrook High School Gospel Choir, winter treats, a wreath and lighting display, and lots of fun for the family to enjoy. Community partners are encouraged to help make this event a success. For more information, email Jeff Padgett, and that's PADGETT, the number 45@gmail.com. Join the Pearl Foundation, Inc. in collaboration with the Rho Zeta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority as they host their 7th annual Dashing Through the Square on Saturday, December 17th at 7:30 a.m. This family-friendly race will take you past beautiful historic homes and the quaint shops that line the Marietta Square. Dashing Through the Square is a Peachtree qualifying race featuring electronic chip timing to ensure accuracy for runners. To register, visit raceroster.com and search for Dashing Through the Square. Yesterday, Deidre and I had the pleasure to partake in a Thanksgiving luncheon with the seniors at Freeman Pool Senior Center. The delicious meal was compliments of Delmar Gardens of Smyrna. The South Cobb High School Gospel Choir serenaded attendees with beautiful melodic tunes. Tons of laughter and excitement filled the room. Thanks to the staff at Freeman Pool, our very own Sandy Panici, the staff at Delmar Gardens, and all who helped to make this a great event. And finally, I would like to wish each of you a very happy Thanksgiving. May your blessings be multiplied this year. May the holiday bring you nothing but wonderful things in abundance. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your families.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, I just want to share hearty congratulations to you, Commissioner Burrell. I want to believe you'll be the longest-serving female commissioner in Cobb County's history. Just congratulations on that. Also, congratulations to you, Cassie, on your statewide recognition. Thanks to all of you who've joined us here today in person, and thank you to all who are joining online or watching us on TV. Finally, thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve. It is truly an honor, it's a blessing to be able to do what we do to help Cobb County move forward. With that, I see Commissioner Gambrill. Oh, okay, yes. There's a little bit less, okay, there's a little bit less fanfare, but we do want to recognize Commissioner Gambrill on her uncontested reelection as well. Congratulations to you. Yes, we can. Yes. So with that, everyone, I pray that all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Board of Commissioners meeting. Good night.